Hey there, Reverend Sully, Eric O'Sullivan, ordained on the internet. The caveat, as always, please do not burn your hands holding on to my hot takes. If you do, then that's on you, pal. It's time for Reverend Sully's Sunday Sermon, and I present to you today from the pulpit, I am PostTherapy. And I wish that for you too, if you're ready for it. It's a little deep end, it's a little personal, but let me tell you something about myself. I'm an only child from a broken home, witnessed a lot of abuse, either in the home and outside the home in the projects of South Boston. I also witnessed a double homicide when I was 15. A woman and her infant got gunned down in Dorchester, and I saw the whole thing happen. And also, I witnessed firsthand a traumatic experience at work with my best work friend dropping dead from a heart attack next to me, where I held his hand and tried to give him mouth to mouth, and he didn't make it. And that was pretty traumatic as well. So I legitimately have what's known as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I have panic attacks and I get anxiety. And yeah, that's just the shape of my life. So I have literally been in and out of therapy all my life. I remember the first time I saw a psychiatrist. I was having behavioral problems at school. I was literally driving my mother crazy. She needed help with this problem child. And sometimes we talk about it too, and she's just sometimes like, yeah, they asked me all these questions. I was like, yeah, Ma, I mean, that's what the whole thing was about. It was about, figuring the kids' behavior out. And then I remember also going to see a counselor to speak to once a week at the South Boston neighborhood house. We called that the Ollie. And yeah, I would walk there from the projects and once a week and talk to my counselor about my emotional state. And then after a big breakup, and when I turned 30, I, for the first time in my adult life, submitted myself to psychotherapy. I went and saw a therapist. My best friend was gracious enough to share with me his therapist, who accepted my insurance, and I went and saw this guy for a couple of months, and it was helpful. One of the caveats I gave him at the time was I don't want any prescription drugs. I'm not here to be medicated. And it was we came to a conclusion that I was doing better, and I stopped. And then things got better, but things get worse as well. So about 2012 or so, and literally after paying attention to the stories of people online that I would follow, specifically Will Wheaton of Star Trek The Next Generation, who shared his stories of panic, anxiety, and getting help. Get yourself help and checked. I have great health insurance being a union employee, so I went and got some help where I had a psychologist and a psychopharmacologist. They put me on Celexa, which really helped for a while. And the talk therapy really helped. My therapist asked great questions. She got to the heart of the matter. And she helped me through talk therapy and through also psychopharmacology achieve a better state of balance. And she was leaving the hospital, and we came to the conclusion after about a year and a half that I was in a very better place. I was very improved, and that I was going to try it on my own for a while, and which I did. And I was free of therapy for years, and I weaned myself off of Celexa as well, and tried going it alone. I then had a tipping point, two of them actually. One at my Sunday job. I used to work a Sunday job at a local restaurant. I was the brunch chef, and we had a new chef, and he was quite toxic. And he had a a toxic blowout one day during the middle of brunch. And I have to admit that it literally triggered me. The guy literally had features, his facial features reminded me of a relative, and it reminded me of a childhood memory of be suffering some childhood roughhousing that was a bit too much for me, and I would get nosebleeds and I would beg and cry, and they were just trying to toughen me up. It didn't work, and it literally put me into an anxiety state. I started having anxiety attacks. I couldn't sleep. So I submitted myself to therapy once again, and this was in mid-2019. This was months before my best work friend Scotty died of a heart attack. This was a different experience. And this was where I began to get clued into about the limitations of therapy. On my 6th visit, I got a referral from my doctor, and I was seen in an outpatient clinic I got assigned a psychologist. And because of some thing with my union insurance, on my 6th visit, I was informed that she was no longer going to be able to see me. And it was literally as if the rug was pulled from under my feet. I literally couldn't feel like the floor under my feet for about 2 weeks. I was in such a kind of a daze of disbelief, and you have to be appreciative that the state of vulnerability and honesty that you need to be in to talk to a therapist to get actual traction on your case, especially in my case after a lifetime of traumatic events and adverse childhood experiences. So I was very put off by the whole thing of therapy. After that, it was left a very bad experience for me, and this uselessness of it, that it can be just, it's that, gossamer, it's that flighty, and that it can be just ripped away from you, just like that. And so I went on, and then came December of 2019, where Scotty died at work next to me during work. That unfortunately left me with panic and anxiety, and once again difficulty in everyday life. And I once again had to go back to therapy, I felt. Now comes COVID and the limitations that lockdown put on all of us. So, as with many of us, with all of us basically, I had to do therapy over Zoom or Google Hangout or Meet, or whatever the heck it was. And that kind of was a learning experience when it comes to the limitations of therapy. And I've had a lot of empathy for my therapists and what they must have been going through as well. But Zoom therapy just didn't have it. It lacked an intrinsic quality. It lacked the closeness, the intimacy one needs to achieve the traction you need to succeed in therapy. So I came to, and here's also where the sermon kicks in. I have been an ordained minister since 1998. I am an amateur theologian. I am what you would call a seeker, and I sought better answers than what the Irish Catholicism of my upbringing gave me, and the dogma of the Catholic Church, and everything involved in ritual and Mass. So, and basically also with Star Wars, which opened me up to Eastern spirituality, I was able to accept Buddhism and eventually Hinduism and the Bhagavad Gita into my life, and the wisdom of Krishna. And this is where I feel that therapy begins to fail the individual. And I'm saying that it has its place, and it's a good experience for those who need help. Yet, things that I did not find available in therapy, words that were not used, gratitude, purpose, and spirit, and that therapy never addressed that. It never drove home the importance of gratitude in a person's life, because gratitude leads to purpose, and in purpose you begin to live the life you're meant to be living. And also, therapy does not broach spirit, your spirit, or the spirit's worth and the wisdom of spirituality. It's it's limited there, and because your spirit gives you empathy. Once you achieve a sense of unity and cosmic consciousness, you don't see the other anymore. You see yourself in others. You see the spirit of yourself in others. There's no longer this push-pull of oppressor and oppressed, of trigger and allergy, of bully and being bullied. There's a oneness, an intrinsic oneness that therapy does not address. And is it by design? Is it to keep you coming back? I mean, is there value in you as a repeat customer to not completely heal you? I don't know. I mean, that sounds a bit negative and judgmental. That's another thing that therapy didn't address, was our judgmental selves. When we stop being so judgmental of ourselves. Oh, that means the laundry's done. I'll get that in a minute. It means that we stop being so judgmental of others. When we're forgiving of ourselves, we are very forgiving of others. And so tenets such as forgiveness are just, doesn't, I don't feel was never broached in my therapy over the courses of all my therapists and all of the years that I was in and out of therapy. We never discussed forgiveness. We never discussed like the unity consciousness or empathy. And it just, I see that therapy can be very limited. And as Buddha said, it's only a raft to get you across the river. Once you cross the river, do you carry the raft with you? No, you leave the raft behind and you go on your way to go on to your voyage, on your path, your Tao, your journey. And but yeah, so I'm not being negative of therapy. I am being critical, and I will say that it sorely lacks spirit. And maybe there's no place for spirit in therapy. So maybe if therapy isn't quite working on all cylinders, perhaps addressing spirit is what you need to foster spirit, to foster your wisdom through empathy. And it does not have to be about going to a Judeo-Christian Western church. I found my salvation through Eastern spiritualities, through Buddhism, and which led me to Hinduism and the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita. I stumble on that all the time, even after all these years. And to have a metaphor or an allegory of life, for me, the avatar of Krishna, who asks me to even make my suffering an offering unto God, that gives me so much freedom And it gives me a lot of breathing room, and it gives me some latitude to work with these daily issues of workplace stress, home place stress, just, interpersonal relationships, negative relationships. I have gotten more traction from spirituality than I have through psychotherapy and psychopharmacology. And I hope this and wish this for you. So if you're needing a bit more help than what therapy can give you, seek. Be a seeker. Read. Be exposed to different forms of mysticisms and spirituality. And read about them all. Be a polyglot. Be promiscuous. Try everything. See what works. Buddha says, use what works. Throw away what doesn't work. It is about Dharma, which means cosmic truth. And you can find it. Spirituality is a missing ingredient in the therapeutic process. And I think it needs its respect, and it needs its place. And that's all I got to say for today. This has been Reverend Sully's Sunday Sermon. And I thank you for tuning in and paying attention and listening. Give me a thumbs up if you like this kind of content. Give me a thumbs down if you think I'm off base here. I'm a big lad, I can handle it. Leave a comment in the comment section. And please give a subscribe if you can. YouTube has been scrubbing subscriptions from creators. And just check to see if you're still subscribed to my channel. And if you're not, well, give me a subscribe. I give daily content. I try to be positive with pop culture. I go on an occasional rant or two. That's just balance, yin and yang. And I'm also a theologian. I'm very spiritual, and I do a Sunday sermon. And I also, I'm a professional chef. I want to give you cooking hacks to raise your home cooking game, to make beautiful, delicious, nutritious, good food for you and your loved ones. And that's all I got for today. Thank you so very much. God bless you. Namaste. And thank you so much for tuning in. Cheers, and God bless.